I can't believe I'm actually doing this video where I'm sitting down and trying to convince people to understand that Ratra of all heroes genuinely needs a buff. Hi everybody, welcome to the video. My name is Abby. Before you get your pitchforks out and start pointing them at me and say that, well, Ratra doesn't need a buff, let me talk to you about the state of Ratra. I got told by a bunch of people that Ratra is really not doing that well, in the casual level of play and overall like ranked performances here and there. And I challenged myself to just play Ramatra for 2 days straight, and trust me when I say this, the gameplay footage in the background is pretty much the best footage for him that I could get. Not even because I had bad teammates or the enemy team was here and there, simply because the hero just feels really bad in the current game environment. So what happened to Ramatra that brought him to this state, and what can we do to help him? So before I dig deep into the video, I ask you guys, can you take a quick look at this statistic over here? More than half of you are coming back to watch the video, and you're enjoying the content. You're always coming back, you're watching my videos. Then I ask you to do one thing. Please just hit that subscribe button, because it'll just always notify you that, I've uploaded a video, I've gone live, and you can come down and chat with me. By the way, guys, I will be live streaming a lot more in the coming months and weeks. So, feel free to come down and, just chat Overwatch. It's really, really enjoyable. Okay, with all that introduction stuff out of the way, let's jump back into the video. So, how did we get to this spot where Ramatra is really bad? Well, there's a bunch of factors. There's the current gameplay balance, and then there's also the current gameplay environment. The current gameplay environment has hurt Ramatra drastically because, number one, the HP pool increases means that Ramatra not only needs an extra punch, but more often than not, if a target is being healed, he might either need to do a second extra punch or land a melee. This is bad because the longer Ramatra takes to get a kill, the more damage he's just outright taking straight to his face without being able to tank that damage. And if he's forced to bring his arms up to, now start blocking, well, if he's committed to a fight, then chances are that Ramatra is in a position where he's deep in enemy territory and he will die. So it's very difficult in Ram's current state to be able to play him aggressively. If anything, the most success I find with him, unfortunately, is to just block bot with him and pray to God your team does something. And what the sad part is even when I am trying to play Ramatra aggressively, it feels like unless my team is, popping off, like my aggression means absolutely nothing. So it's really sad because whether I do the passive Ramatra playstyle or the aggressive Ramatra playstyle, it really just comes down to, well, is my team playing the game? Which I think is ridiculous. I think there should be some sort of individuality, like some form of like being able to do things myself on every character. And before anybody says that, well, it's a team game and, you need to rely on your team. Well, the other tanks don't actually need that. Now, for example, Reinhardt was compensated for the new HP pools, so his breakpoints feel relatively the same. And Ryan is actually in a much better spot than Ramatra right now. Ryan is actually not even that bad. He's actually probably a B or A tier tank, depending on the map and situation. And the top two tanks right now, are, without a doubt, in my opinion, are Roadhog and Mauga. And Ramatra really does not like these matchups. First of all, against Roadhog just has insane burst damage to the point where it just gutters, Ramatra's ability to play aggressive, which is ridiculous, Blizzard, because I thought all these changes were to tone down the frustrations of getting one shot and things like that, and yet we allowed Roadhog to maintain this identity, which is, again, ridiculous, and they should seriously nerf Hog. I cannot believe that in the mid-season, Roadhog is not getting any nerfs, like, at all. If anything, he's getting indirectly buffed, and I don't know what Blizzard thinks sometimes. But secondly, the next tank on the list that's actually pretty good is Mauga, and Mauga not only is able to out-sustain Ramatra, but Mauga also just has a better matchup against Ramatra because of how much damage he can churn out over time, keep himself alive, and the benefits he provides to his teams just outweighs the benefits that Ramatra brings, which again is ridiculous when you think about how, in my personal opinion, Ramatra was actually a very well-designed tank, and then we somehow went over to Mauga, who is just a very horribly designed tank. Regardless, Ramatra is in a very, very poor spot. So again, to summarize everything, he has really bad matchups against the tanks in general. Doomfist also makes his life a living hell. The dive tanks with Diva, Winston, Wrecking Ball can all ignore him and farm his backline for free because this Ramatra is too slow to react. He has like an okay matchup against Orisa if your team is supporting you, and he has a decent matchup if you can land your shots onto Junker Queen. Alright, like he's okay, he's alright into Zarya and then Sigma, and then sadly that's it. Like, I guess the best situation to play Ram is against Sig, Zarya, or Queen, and even then, the Reinhardt is just a better option because of just the way the kit works on Ryan. You have more options to do things against these characters, like, and Ryan doesn't even need to properly aim his ability, his hammer. so his damage is more consistent and more reliable than a Ramatra who may be missing his punches. So in my personal opinion, like, what needs to be done for Ram? Again, considering the HP pool increases and what they were meant to do, considering that Reinhardt, a brawl tank, was compensated for breakpoint purposes, I think it's okay for Ramatra to be compensated for breakpoint purposes too. Again, I reiterate this because as usual, there'll be someone in the comments who will miss the point that I'm trying to make. The point of the changes of the 250 HP pools and beyond, the tanks getting big HP pools and everything, was to reduce the frustrations of getting one shot and things like that. However, Ramatra was one of the few honest characters that didn't actually do any one-shotting, nor, was his breakpoints a problem. Like, he had to land 4 to 4.5 punches. Well, I guess you could argue, like, 4 punches in one melee in order to secure a kill on a character, simply because how strong healing and override abilities are. Like what override abilities are, like Suzu, Life Grip, Immortality Field, etc., etc. So Ramatra, in my personal opinion, could genuinely use the damage buff, like not something too drastic, just enough to where it goes back to the way Ramatra used to be, where okay, he could like 4-shot a squishy, like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then he gets a kill on a squishy instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then a melee, depending if the target is being healed or not. Because trust me, it feels horrible because you only have Nemesis form up for so long, and that's kind of what I felt. Was like, dude, like I'm taking so long to get a kill on a squishy that by the time I kill said squishy, I'm almost out of Nemesis form, and that's ridiculous, right? So I do think Ram needs help in that regard because, again, the hero has lost his identity from the perspective that, well, why would you play Ram here when these other characters are just more consistent? And speaking of hero identities that got lost, I will be talking about the projectile DPS role because they got the worst end of the stick lately, where characters like Genji, Hanzo, Junkrat, Mei, Symmetra, and well, now Venture, I guess, are in really, really poor spots. Now, again, I'm not a fan of all the characters, and I don't think all characters should be meta, but I definitely think that a character should be strong enough to be played by themselves and not feel like a chore. I think, like, Sim, I think Sim is in a very, very poor spot. I think Mei is also in a really, really poor spot. Those two are really unique to talk about, so they'll probably get separate videos. I spoke about Genji recently, but I might talk about him a little bit more in the near future. I know Hanzo's getting a buff, so I don't know if I should talk about him yet or until we see what his buff is, and the same thing for Junkrat. So I'm holding back on those two in particular, but I really wanted to talk about Ram because Ram just feels really bad. Like, you can't, it just feels really bad, and I think, giving him a little bit of a damage buff won't hurt him. Or alternatively, if they don't want to give him a damage buff because they're worried about, like, the way excuse me, if they're worried about the way the numbers work, then they could just increase how fast his fists fight. So, or he throws his fist. You guys know what I'm saying, right? Now, so instead of just 1, 2, 3, he goes like 1, 2, 3. So his damage over time is actually faster. So this way, again, it could help him a little bit with breakpoints. So I don't know. I'm just throwing ideas out there because I think Ramatra is a very cool tank. I like. Even when Ram came out and it was his meta, I never felt like he was bad to play against because he didn't do anything crazy. He didn't like hook you into one-shotting you. He didn't just like steal your ability to play the game. He didn't shut down your abilities. He doesn't lock you into a cage. It doesn't feel like he can't die. Like, it feels like everything the Ramatra player does, he has to make a decision. Like, if he wants to stay alive, he needs to start block botting and, hoping that his supports support him into staying alive. If he wants to create aggression, well, he walks in, creates said aggression, and does his best to secure a kill, hoping that people are following up on his plays, right? But right now, I do feel like he's on a little bit of an extreme side of the game where it genuinely feels like he cannot do anything. And seriously, nerf Roadhog. I might actually have to make a new video on Roadhog, just talking about how ridiculous this character is right now. And the fact that Blizzard isn't even thinking about nerfing him yet, like in the proposed patch notes that are coming for the mid-season, there's nowhere it says that they're gonna nerf Roadhog, which is insane. I'm sorry, like, excuse me, but it's insane that we're not thinking about Roadhog right now. Because in my personal opinion, Hog and Mauga are by far the best tanks, but here's the thing. Mauga feels like you can deal with him. Like, if you get a Zen or like an Echo or a good Sombra that can time your abilities, you can still deal with Mauga. I don't think Mauga's that bad. I think he's like found his niche and where he's good, and it's okay. But I definitely think Roadhog is so good right now. Like, he just insta-deletes so many tanks. Like, Ramatra can't like fight him well. Doomfist can really, again, okay, so a good Hog versus a good Doom will still favor the Hog because he will know how to play around the Doom's cooldowns and when he's vulnerable, and then just delete him. And yeah, like Hog is horrible. Like Hog has an amazing matchup right now against Orisa too, where you just bait out Orisa's abilities, just stay alive, and then just delete her. And my goodness, man! Like I know this is a Ramatra video, but I had to rant about Hog because PTSD, man, PTSD. Hog is a menace right now. And it is what it is. Anyways, everybody, let me know, what do you think about the state of Ratra right now, and what would you do to help him? So again, to summarize, I would give him like the faster punches if Blizzard is too worried about numbers going up, or I would give him a slight damage buff to his damage to give him back the old breakpoints where it took 4 shots to kill a squishy. Because again, like another reason why Ram is also struggling is tanks in general, their HPs went up. So Ramatra's breakpoints against tanks is much worse now than it was before, which sucks a lot because again, like I said, like Ram's really not that crazy of a character who's that oppressive. Like probably the only thing about Ram that's a little bit oppressive is his ultimate, but even his ultimate, people have learned how to counterplay now. Like you just burst it down because most Sumatra players will use that ultimate and just do their best to be super aggressive, and you know you just melt him. Like he's just like running across the map trying to catch you with his tentacles or whatever, and you just delete it from the game, and there's nothing he can do about it. So yeah, Ramatra, really rough spot right now in my opinion. Anyways, everybody, that's going to be it for this video. In tomorrow's video, it is Monday, and I did have a planned schedule that I'm sure a lot of you have seen in the communities tab, and I do plan on going through with it. I think some of those videos will be swapped around just a little bit, simply because the Genji video that I'm working on, I am going to wait just a little bit to play him in the new mid-season patch to kind of prove my point, and then I'll do that video. So maybe tomorrow we'll actually talk about why Roadhog needs a nerf. So with that being said, again, if you're interested, hit like and subscribe, helps support the channel for free. And as always, if you want to support the channel financially, use Super Chat, means the world to me. With that being said, I will see you in the next video.